I thought this league ended like 5 weeks ago. I don't understand why it keeps making me set lineups, though. Apparently, some of you have chosen not to follow those instructions anymore. But 16 weeks down, we have finally hit the championship in the Massillon Fantasy League. I'm Ryan. He's Dan. How you doing this morning, my friend?
Doing great. Happy for everyone else. It's the last time they got to hear us for a while.
Yeah, I was going to say a break until we decide to do the draft lottery. Yeah, Dan, it's been an interesting season. My champion that I called, I think 8 weeks ago, is the only one still alive. Bobby Wins let you down, though. I love Bobby Wynn's participation in this league. He's out here posting the Stephon Diggs meme as an apology to you. Like my guy's out here having a blast. I can't say the same for the rest of the league, but everybody's having a blast. So, or Bobby's having a blast.
No, he didn't let me down. He had a great year. Proud of him. He showed you can build through the draft. I think I look forward to his offseason moves. He's got to make some moves.
Yeah.
And he is as active as he is. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Someone asked about when we can start doing trades again. I don't know if Sleeper lets me turn it right back on after the season. If it does, I'll do it.
It does. I think it usually starts it on its own as soon as the championship is over. Like,
okay, so
the next, like on that Tuesday. Because I think I made a trade on like Wednesday.
That's what I thought too. Is we did it last year. I think I turned it on though because I don't think it rolls the season until February. But I could be wrong about that too. We'll see. I mean, they're always making updates. We'll see. Dan, a couple of things I picked up from last week. High score was Kenny. What a week to get the high score. Thank you, Jonathan Taylor. 4th time this season, Kenny was the high score, which ties him with Terry. 4th time this season. So Terry and Kenny have half of the league's high scores. Couldn't be in different spots right now. And all of the last 4 weeks have been Terry and Kenny, Dan.
I'm right there with them. I've actually been in the top 5 or top 3 for I think 6 straight weeks now, 5 or 6 straight weeks in the top 3. Looks like I'm gonna be there again this week as well.
Yeah.
I think right now I'm projected at the highest score in the league again.
Yeah, so by a lot, if I think.
Not a lot. I'm at 133. Stevie's
okay. For some reason, I thought you were at 160 when I looked, but no, it's that you were projected. You're playing someone who's only projected 60 is where I got confused there. What's up, Nate? We see you in the chat. Glad to have you here, buddy. Dan, my second point, I'm going to bring up the league doc. I updated the league doc today. So why is it not doing my layout? Oh, because I didn't have it on the stage. There we go. I updated the league doc today, Dan, but what I wanted to call out was, so I updated, I haven't gotten into the individual teams yet, but I updated the league records over here on the side. I have not updated the runs yet. And then I updated this. So Dan, you are still in second place behind Lures, 1 game behind. Marlia takes the lead on me. Biggest jump by far was Greg with this great season he puts together. Jumps up to 6th highest win-loss. And the biggest drop by far was Rob Motz, who was where Greg was and falls all the way to 17 down here by Terry with his rough performance this season. But Dan,
that's hard.
I don't know what to make of this. Maybe people are just burnt out, but this might be the worst playoff participation I've ever seen in our league. Greg is starting an out guy this week in the 3rd place game. There are repercussions to the 3rd place game. It's not much. It's like $5, but the winner of the 3rd place game gets the better of the 2 draft picks. I don't know if Greg has his own one, but just some weirdness. It's no penalties in the lottery. Once we get into the playoffs, you're free to tank if you want. I don't know why you would want, but my note here, Dan, is as the commissioner, I'm worried. As the fantasy manager, I'm hoping the fantasy gods take notice and punish these people next season.
Yeah, I think part of it, like especially in the losers bracket, is that once you're out, you're out. I mean, you're not winning first place anymore like we used to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a point of luck, but
and that actually brings me to something else. We'll get into it when me and Eric's game comes up. So me and Eric are playing each other. We are easily, I was going to say we're the worst 2 teams in the league, but Rob and Taylor are down there with us. But me and Eric have been the worst 2 teams towards the end of the season by far. There's nothing on the line in our game. I had this in my original lottery plan and I took it out. I think I'm going to add it back next season. The loser of me and Eric's game, not this year, but next year, the loser of the game where someone has never won a game in the losers bracket, I think I'm going to take away a lottery point, Dan. I want the game to matter. So right now, me and Eric are setting lineups for literally no reason, but the winner of our game next year will not lose a point of lottery. I think the loser should. If you can't win a single game in the loser. Now, here's the thing. Every year, one person does not win a game in the losers bracket.
That's intriguing. I like it.
I do want to throw JR up on the screen because this is kind of what I thought might be going on. JR said too many days where the games are spread apart. If you're not living fantasy football right now with Christmas and everything, I thought the same thing. What's been suffering for me, this is going to sound really terrible. My Twitter, I haven't been like getting to people's questions in time when people are asking me questions and asking for my advice. And I haven't been able to get to them because like you forget there's 3 games that start at 1:00 on a Saturday. Plus you have your own Christmas stuff if you're trying to unplug. So I'll give a lot of credence to what JR said there. I've been thinking this a lot this week. Christmas week, this has been the worst week for a fantasy championship.
I get that. You thinking about going back to like week 16 championship?
Not for our league, but I played in a week 16 championship, and I'll say I was way less stressed in that league. But where I was stressed is the week 14 playoff because you have bye weeks in the playoffs, and I absolutely hate that. I do want to give Nate some credence here. He says he's in 2 leagues, 2 championships, and then he went and blocked the Chuba Hubbard manager when Chuba gets put on IR and grabs all of the viable running backs and keeps them on his bench. I like the gamesmanship there.
That's funny.
All right, Dan. So yeah, if you guys check, I think in the league chat, I have the record book somewhere. I have that up to date. I do need to update our individual teams, a couple of other things. But Dan, I did want to throw the lottery tracker up on the screen here. So obviously this year there will not be any points lost for the me and Eric game. But right now, Terry is leading in luck, though, Dan, you can make that a tie with a win this week. Me, Motts, and Taylor bring up the back end. Motts is the only person who lost a point of luck. Everybody else is kind of shuffled in the middle. JR can jump up to 5 with a win this week against you, though it's probably not going to happen. So right now it's looking like you and Terry are going to go in with 7 points of luck out of the 9 that I'm allowed to give. You're going to go in with 7 as you guys go into the draft lottery.
Yeah, should get that 7th one. Well, actually, is there a high score one this week as well?
Well, it's if you've never had high score. You had high score back in week 5. It's if you get it at least once. So technically, everybody who's never gotten high score does have a chance to get 1 more point of luck this week, but it's looking like it's going to be you. But you got it back in week 5, so there's nothing for you to earn there.
Gotcha. I was just thinking if I could get to 8.
Yep. Dan, I'm going to throw the bracket up on the screen here. So just a rundown of the brackets. Last week, Stevie beats down Greg, goes into the championship, and Kenny beats down Rob P. Bobby wins, goes into the championship. We'll talk more about the championship here in a moment. 5th place game went down. Darren took that game down, so Darren won an extra $5 of the league money back, and Darren gets the better pick. Out of that, I thought I forgot to show the draft order on that last screen, but we'll worry about that at some other point. 3rd place game is playing for the same thing. That's Rob P versus Greg down in the losers bracket. Last week we saw JR beat Terry. We saw you beat Horvath. So you guys will be playing for the losers bracket championship. That is $25 of your money back plus a point of lottery, as we already talked about. Everything else, the Terry Horvath game is for a point of lottery. The Rob Taylor game is for a point of lottery. And this season, the 13th place game is for nothing. Next year, it will be for something. So we will talk more about that next season. Dan, let's get into these games. The first game is the meaningless game. I have no notes for any game but the championship, so I will pop them up here and scroll, and then we can announce our winner. So it is me versus Eric. As I mentioned, me and Eric over the last month of the season have easily been the worst 2 teams in this league. Eric has decided to not even start a kicker this week. Again, I guess I can't fault Eric because it doesn't matter. So Dan, I'm picking myself because I have more players to go. So,
I mean, I see why he's not putting the kicker in. He's trying to hold on as many guys that have potential value in the future.
Yeah, keeper value
with his roster. So I have no problem with it. I think he still beats you.
Okay. Oh, by the way, Dan, you and I think we had the same picks last week, so we both went 6-1. Darren went against us on a lot of picks. Darren goes 3-4. Darren is officially out of this race. Dan, you have 70 correct this season. I have 68 correct this season. So I don't know if we're going to be different enough to for me to have a chance to catch you. So
well, I'll tell you what. Do you want me to go first every game? And
no, I have all my picks in. Mine are very chalky. I have a feeling we're not going to be very different. So the next
who you
game
on that one? You never said.
I said I think I beat him.
Oh, okay. I'm taking Eric.
I say so. We're different. Yep, absolutely. Terry versus Horvath. Terry jumps out to a big lead. He's projected to win this one by 38 points. I'll scroll the teams a little bit as I tell you that I do have Terry winning this game.
I have Terry as well.
All right, let me finish scrolling. So if anybody wants to see the lineups here as we move on to Taylor and Motts, I do want to point out Terry and Horvath are playing for a lottery point, as are Taylor and Motts. Taylor jumps out to an early lead. Motts doesn't even have a lineup. Taylor is projected to double him 80-40. I don't see anything changing here, Dan. I got Taylor winning this matchup.
I have Taylor winning as well. Rob, no, he just doesn't have a kicker on. Gotcha.
Yeah, Rob's team just legitimately laid an egg. So, again, that is for a lottery point. Dan, the next game would be your game because you guys are down in the losers bracket. You jump out to it. What's that?
Just reminding me.
Yep. You jump out to an enormous lead, and you're actually projected to win by that enormous lead on the back of Joe Burrow. Winner of this game gets $25, half their league entry fee back, and a lottery point. Dan, I think you win this one pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm taking myself as well.
I thought you might. Third place game. Greg with the puzzling decision to start David Montgomery. I had to go look to see if he started Montgomery last week. He also doesn't have an IDP. I didn't even notice that. But he had Najee Harris. And then I think his flex is a wide receiver. So not quite sure what happened there because he didn't start Montgomery next week. Rob P still only projected to win this one by 18, but with the holes in Greg's lineup, Dan, they are playing for $5 extra and the better draft pick. I am picking Rob P. Bobby wins.
Bobby wins as well.
And then Dan, the only game that we need to be spending any time on, I'll break this down position by position. So we got Stevie versus Kenny. Stevie came into the playoffs at 8-6. Kenny came in at 9-5. They were the 3 and 4 seeds. And let me just break this down. You got Baker Mayfield still to go. Justin Herbert dropped 24 points on the Patriots yesterday. You got Breece Hall versus Bijan Robinson. Saquon Barkley versus Jonathan Taylor. Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Jamar Chase. Chase already dropped 17 yesterday. Cooper Kupp versus Keenan Allen. Both kind of laid eggs over the weekend. 2 points out of Cooper Kupp, 6 points out of Keenan Allen. Trey McBride finally shows up and scores a touchdown. 27 points from Stevie's tight end. Kenny still has Jonnu Smith to go. Flex position is Devontae Adams versus Josh Downs. IDP, Kenny got 10 points out of Kyle Hamilton. Stevie still has Brian Branch. Kickers both still to go and actually playing each other. Brandon Aubrey versus Jake Elliott. Miami's defense taking on Cleveland. Buffalo's defense taking on the Jets. Stevie left Bo Nix on the bench over Baker Mayfield. Kyler Murray on the bench obviously was a great call for Kenny's team. I don't think any Stevie's defense of Baltimore, 24 points on the bench because he played Miami. I have to take a little ownership here. I guess not ownership. He asked me which defense to play, and I originally said Baltimore. I did say Miami was interesting. Apparently interesting was enough for Stevie to start Miami over Baltimore. Probably not the best move there, and Kenny has Atlanta down on the bench. So Dan, let's break this down. I take any position you want, pick your winner. How do you want to handle it?
This is tough, man. This is tough. I think it's gonna be a real close game. I think it could go either way. I think that just because I see what Kenny's team has already done,
that's kind of where I stood too. I
think I'm gonna go Kenny. Baker could have a big game to match Herbert, but that's not guaranteed. It's tough when you see those points already there.
Yeah.
Do you trust Devontae Adams to have another big game? The Bills have been playing good. Do you trust Breece Hall? I mean, having the two Jets out there makes me nervous. I think the Dolphins' defense will probably score some points for him.
Yeah.
But I could also see the Bills' defense doing the same thing.
I do like both defenses this week.
The weather's pretty crappy out for the Cleveland game for the Dolphins. but Dolphins don't always. I mean, it's decently warm out, so if it was a cold weather game, I'd be more concerned with that Dolphins defense in Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's tough. I'm gonna stick with my gut and go Kenny getting the championship here.
All right. Well, this is my chance to tie you because I'm going Stevie. I took away the exact same notes as you, Dan. I love that Herbert's already in the book, but Baker can match. I love that Jamar's already in the book, but Amon-Ra St. Brown can match. I don't think Jonnu Smith can match Trey McBride. So that kind of cancels out the already in the book part of it for me. And Dan, believe it or not, my deciding factor, Brandon Aubrey against Jake Elliott. I think Brandon Aubrey is going to be a deciding factor in Stevie winning a championship. That game from McBride could not have come at a better time. He had the most receptions in NFL history without a touchdown up to this point. Now, he had fallen on that touchdown in week 2, if I remember correctly, but he had not received a touchdown until this week. It's in a losing effort, but 12 catches for 123 yards and a touchdown. I think that bailed Stevie out. I think I would have agreed with you on Kenny until that Trey McBride game last night. It was an ugly game, but it worked out really well in Stevie's favor for at least one opponent. I'm going to go Stevie. I'm going to stick with my guy. I would have been happy to change if I thought it was warranted. But every point you made, I agree. Bijan is a slight edge over Brees, but I look at these two as a cancel. I think this is probably a cancel. I just called that a cancel because it's a little 3-point difference. Even with Devontae Adams, I kind of called this a cancel. And I don't love Josh Downs at all, but it's that McBride, and then I think it's Brandon Aubrey is the point that makes the difference for me, Dan. So I'm going Stevie in this one. And Darren jumps in and joins the Stevie bandwagon after picking Greg last week and it failing for him. So Darren takes Stevie as his winner as well.
I'll be honest, the Josh Down thing scares me the most.
Like you think he goes off, or
no?
You think it's a bad start for Kenny? I see what you're
lay
saying.
an absolute egg. Like, I know why Kenny's here. He's had a good year, but his depth versus everybody else is just, it's crazy. He has none. And for him to make it to the championship is pretty impressive. He got there.
Yeah, it's certainly been a hell of a run for Kenny. All my best to him. Haven't heard from him in a while. Hope you're doing well, my friend. I know you're no longer with us in college football for whatever reason. So, again, hope you're doing well. Haven't heard from you. So yeah, that's going to be it, Dan. So we got 2 picks for Stevie, 1 pick for Kenny. One of us have been calling Stevie for multiple weeks now. I'll take that victory lap every chance that I get. Dan, last week in the game, only me, you, and Darren participated because not many of us are participating in the game anymore. Darren took Burrow and Achane to cancel out your Josh Allen and Achane. I, of course, took Kyler and Gibbs. Darren's pick was enough to get him the win. Darren scored 48 points. You scored 35. I scored 37. It gives Darren his 4th win. So if Darren beats you this week in the players game, he can actually tie you here as well. So Dan, you could end up finishing in a tie for the pick'em game and for the quarterback flex game. As always,
I'm about to change my pick to Steve just so you can't tie me.
Nope, no changes. It's in the books. I've already written it down. But Dan, last week of the season, Nate jumps in with Josh Allen and Jahmyr Gibbs. I was going to ask Dan, do you want to go first or second?
Buddy, you know the rules.
I do know the rules, Dan, but guess what? Nate just took my 2 picks, and I don't know if I just want to tie Nate to beat you. They're literally in the sheet right now, Josh Allen and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm going to switch my running back to be different from Nate. I'm going to stick with Josh Allen. I'm going to pivot to Saquon Barkley goes out to try to break Eric Dickerson's record. I'm going to go Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley just to be a little different from Nate. If Nate beats me, I'm going to be so pissed.
All right. So I'm going to go. This is tough just because so many guys have already played.
Yeah. So I will say, Dan, I know this is the most hyperbolic bullshit.
Nope,
I would have definitely took Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase if we had done this show any earlier in the week.
Oh.
I was so in on that game. It was ridiculous. And then Darren's making this a running back battle. He goes Josh Allen and Devon Achane. So.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with Jordan Love and Justin Jefferson.
And J. Jeff stacking that game up, huh? You think that'll be a good game? I did a show yesterday with a big Green Bay Packers fan, and his wife happens to be a big Minnesota Vikings fan. And I was all in on the Denver-Cincinnati game. We got a ton of questions yesterday that were Bo Nix, Sam Darnold, Jordan Love, some pick of those three. And my default answer was, I want a piece of the Denver-Cincinnati game. And I told you this before the show, Dan. I was fucking sweating that advice going into the fourth quarter, but thankfully these guys balled out in the fourth quarter, made me feel a lot better about my picks. But he was like, I agree with Ryan. I'm going to go Knicks. He's like, but I think there's something sneaky about this Green Bay Minnesota game, and I think they're going to have to throw a lot. I feel like you agree with that.
I feel like it's going to be a good battle. I think I pay attention to the weather games. It's an indoor game.
Yep.
I think that'll be to their advantage. Minnesota's offense has been putting up points. Green Bay's going to have to put up points to match them. So I think Jordan Love's due for a big game. I think he's playing better now than he was earlier in the year. Justin Jefferson just coming off a huge game, and I think they're going to continue to target him. So let's just go with it. Let's have some fun. Let's get wild.
Darren wants to get different on his quarterback, so he went Jaden Daniels and Devon Achane in his bid to tie you for that. Nate taking a familiar stance in this game. They are on one of his championship teams, Allen and Gibbs, so he needs them to go off. So he's going to pick them in the game. And then Nate mentioned, how's his main team going? Well, he has to play Mason Rudolph this week. So, Dan, I saw a lot of people who ran into that like terrible situation. I'm going to guess, Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably had Jalen Hurts, because I feel like that's the situation where a lot of people, Dan, I saw go from Jalen Hurts to Anthony Richardson to Tua Tagovailoa, and now they had to go all the way down to like Mason Rudolph. And I got Joe Flacco questions yesterday, Dan, in the championship game. I'm getting Joe fucking Flacco questions. So
good times.
What an interesting
They
season.
just drafted Joe Burrow.
They should have just drafted Joe Burrow. Ain't that the damn truth?
Best quarterback in football.
Oh, he has Hurts and Allen, so he did lose Jalen Hurts this week, which a lot of people lost. But yeah, hard to argue with what Joe Burrow has done this week, or this season rather, this week as well. So yeah, Dan, it's been a fun ride. Obviously, we're going to take some time off because you're the busiest human being I know, and I am burnt out of fantasy football. But I would say sometime around the Super Bowl, when people are still big into football, we'll get together and do the draft lottery show. Let everybody figure out where they're going to be picking and everything. So that's it. Dan, final parting words for our friends of the 2024 fantasy season and of the year 2024.
Love you guys. Happy holidays. Been a fun year. Hopefully you guys are rack and ready to go next year, setting lineups.
Yeah, let's do better in the playoffs next year. I need to figure out how to make the playoffs more fun. So that's going to be it, guys. I have nothing negative to say to anybody this week. Eric beat my ass. It doesn't fucking matter anymore. My team's a joke.
I agree.
I'm a terrible. Yeah, well, Dan definitely needs me to lose. Well, I guess definitely is a large stretch here. None of this matters.
I got to win something.
Oh, wait. We got final 3 words from Nate. I'm going to let him get all 3 of them typed up here before I put it up on the screen. Here we go. It's taken a little while on YouTube. The last word doesn't want to come up, but it's get me in. We'll do our best. Darren says happy holidays. Stevie, go win the what would it be? The fifth Weiss championship. Marlia has one, or no, the 4th. Marlia has one, I have one, and now you can have 2. Go win the 4th Weiss championship. Win the 5th too. Do that next year. We'll see how that goes. Good luck to everybody, especially to Stevie. Have a nice holiday. Everybody be safe, and we'll see you guys probably around the Super Bowl. Peace.